what you're going to hear is a set of sounds that was recorded at 3:06 p.m. on September 15th of 1991 in Coshocton County, Ohio. Setting it up again. So you're... Okay, what you're about to hear on this audio tape is a series of sounds that was picked up at approximately 3:06 p.m. on the afternoon of September 15th, 1991. Listen closely.
We're with Don Keating and Marc DeWerth, December 7th, 1996. Don, what do you have there in this next recording?
Well, what I did here was, whenever we're out in the field periodically at night, I'll make some kind of a yell to see if I can get some type of response from anything in the woods. And this night, it was around, I believe it was around 12:30 at night, I yelled, and approximately 20 seconds later, we got a sound come out of the woods from some type of creature that yelled almost identical to what I did, except it was a higher pitch.
The amazing thing is, where we were parked, it sounded like it was coming from almost straight up the ridge, from where we were, where we were standing, and there was, I think, a total of 6 people there. It was unusual, especially. I mean, there was also wood on wood afterwards, but I don't know if it was ever picked up on the tape.
I don't think it picked up, but it sent chills up and down a lot of people's spines. It was,
believe me.
It was an unusual sound. So I think I got this queued up now, so I'll go ahead and... So, do you want my yelling in there and
absolutely.
Then little... That was,
It was going... I mean, it was almost like Morse code or something, but it was coming from the same side of the wood line, but farther down, almost like whatever it was went all the way down, and then it started doing...
Yeah, so after
the wood on wood.
After 5 minutes, I became extremely intrigued because I've never heard wood on wood come out of the woods like that. Just like
recessive.
Yeah, it was just like what he said. Just sounded like somebody was tapping
At first, I really didn't hear it, and then Terry goes to me, "Oh my God, wood on wood!" I go, "What?" And I'm starting to listen. I'm like, "It's from down there." And then
so we jump in the car. We drive down the road. We stop at this red metal gate, and lo and behold, within another minute or two, it comes out of the woods again.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, what's going on here?
And now this has been part of your tradition now is tapping that, and obviously only you guys know about this tapping of wood on wood.
Well,
have you tried it again, and how has the response been?
I mean, every time we've gone out and done it, I'd say a total, we've done it probably 12 times. I think only maybe one time, and that was the time I ever get a response.
I'm just saying because by the time it gets around to other Bigfoot researchers, you'll be hearing the return call from another researcher.
Yeah, but see, I was doing this back as long ago as December of '89.
Okay, yep.
And
long before people even knew that there was a tradition of an entity in this area.
Right. And one thing that's very important you got to keep in mind whenever you tell this story to anybody is that we don't tell anybody where we're going.
Okay.
Nobody knows where we're going.
That's great.
Be it at noon or at midnight.
That's the best. Okay.
People come out with us after the meeting. It's like, hey, let's get going. Just follow. And they
because they don't know where we're going.
That's great.
A lot of times he don't know where we're going, and he's driving.
And where we go,
I just decided
where we go. I mean, sometimes we'll be driving. We'll just make up right there. He'll just say, well, turn here. Turn here, go here, go here, and then the places where we go, there's just not people where we go. No one in their right mind is going to be out in the woods at 1 in the morning, in freezing cold, sitting out in the middle of the woods just to sit there. Oh, I'm going to get these guys.
No, you're right.
I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but
But you're right. I mean, I always have to though find out about the hoaxers and the pranksters. And usually the hoaxers and pranksters really are not that intelligent. They leave telltale signs.
Well, they want to be.
And the alcohol-induced people that left the imprints at that campsite, for instance.
Yeah.
Those are the type of college sophomore pranks that they pull.
Well, I mean, think of it this way. If you, what was I going to say? Just trust him. They have to trust him. I mean, you talk to Betty Parks, and Betty Parks is a very well-respected researcher she's old now and she can't go on the field, but one thing she told me was that when she died, because her husband's already dead, that whatever she has for Bigfoot research, every bit of information is going to Don, because he's the only one she trusts.
Wonderful.
She's got a dump
And
load
she
of
has a
material, too.
dump.
Man.
Oh yeah.
If you were ever at
Where's she
place-
from, Betty?
Well, she lives in Richmond, Indiana now.
Okay.
Which is just across the Ohio line.
And she used to.
Used to live in Eaton, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is how far from Coshocton County?
180 miles west.
West. Okay.
Yeah. So you're talking right along the Ohio-Indiana line on I-70.
Just north of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably about 50 miles north of Sunset.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Let me ask you this, Don, while I let the video running. Tradition of some sort of man-beast anthropoid, a bipedal hominid in this area. Marc DeWerth pointed out on my trip down here, a lot of abandoned mines. Strip mining took place here in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. Reckless abandon. Take it, rape the land, take the bituminous coal. Of course, then fossil fuels, our dependency dwindled. Then they leave. But that leaves a perfect habitat for some sort of mammalian creature. As I spoke with Marc, it's always easier to hide than it is to seek, and this presents itself as a perfect habitat then for some sort of man-beast anthropoid.
Yeah, I like to call the area out in the old strip mines like a miniature Grand Canyon, because you're faced with high walls that could be as high as 125 or 150 feet. And at the base of them, more often than not, you've got these very long, very narrow, very deep bodies of water that have just filled in because they never filled it in after they mined it. So you've got so much natural resources available out there that these things can just roam around in, even this time of the year when you've got deer hunting going on right now, that people wouldn't even find them. I mean, because it's so vast an area and so rugged. I mean, the old Columbus and Southern Cool Lands, Ohio Power Company out there, it's open to the public hunting and fishing. You're not allowed to be out there at night. The reason being is they don't want a bunch of people straying away from the roads, going up on these high walls, not knowing where you're going. You fall off there and see you.
That's right.
You know, and that's how wild it is out there. You know.
Let me ask you this regarding the entity you were mentioning, deer hunting season. Marc had mentioned that these beings obviously are intelligent enough such that they retreat deeper into the thicket until these drunken hunters stop their season, which ends, I guess, in a couple
Thursday, I think it ends.
It ends Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday.
And that the spike, as far as sightings, occur in January, but winter being your high water mark regarding sightings. Question, what about summertime sightings? Do you feel this is a migratory beast?
I'll make a comment. I think you got me wrong on that assessment. I think is what I was saying is like October, November are very down months, according to his statistics, as in sightings. I mean, if you look at his publication, there might be one report for each month. It might be even an old report. He don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, we know bow season and hunting and gun season, happen to fall in those 2 months.
Right.
So that's the high possibility. Pheasants, squirrel hunting, the whole 9 yards. So I mean, you think that maybe in the daytime, once hunting season ends, these creatures finally say, well, we can start wandering back in a little closer to the roads, and that's when people driving down the road look off to the right and see a big hairy thing standing there, or typical cross the road, whatever situation. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I blame it all on the hunters. I mean, when the hunters are there, they stay away.
Makes sense.
Yeah, in my opinion, though, if you get statistical about it, I think the peak of your sightings come from March through May, and then again from maybe August, September, and October around here. They dwindle off. They fall off quite a bit, but they don't totally disappear because there have been a considerable amount of sightings per month for every month of the year in Ohio. And I think that, of course, Ohio is the same way as Massachusetts. The winters are horrific. You know, if there's a foot and a half of snow on the ground, more people aren't going to go in the woods.
Exactly.
If there's no snow on the ground, it's 55 degrees on January 1st, I'm out there. You know, and it's just I guess it's just like during the summer, and traditionally the sightings pick up during the nice months. They fall off during the not so nice months because people don't want to go out there and bear the elements.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I've done extensive research on Bigfoot at higher elevations, i.e. Yeti, Yeren, Kaptar, white Bigfoot. And what intrigues the hell out of me for Ohio is not only the footage that you have of this white Bigfoot, but the story of how you found out. Perhaps you could relate that story, and also liken any other sightings of this white creature. And is the white creature the only creature that lurks in this area of Ohio?
The videotape of the white or light-colored individual that I got in August of 1992 was totally by accident. I was taking what they call B-roll footage. I wanted to show the natural resources. I didn't like the angle of which I was shooting, so I decided to relocate myself. I had the camcorder up on my right shoulder, of course. I did not turn it off for whatever reasons. I was facing the lake. I turned away from the lake. I was walking due south. The camcorder was pointing due west. I stopped just momentarily, and when I stopped, this thing walked down the road. And as it walked down the road, you can see the fence posts that are between me and it, the bushes that are between it and the wood line, and I didn't find out about it until 17 months later.
Wow.
And I didn't know it. A lot of times when I go out in the field by myself, if nothing spectacular happens, if nothing is found, I'll keep the footage I shoot, but I'll just stick it on one of those shelves you see over there. And 17 months later was December of '93 when it was bitterly cold, nothing better to do except watch TV. I pulled out the tape off the shelf. I wanted to see what was, what summer weather was like instead of bitterly cold outside. Plus I wanted to hear an interview I had done with a man who had since then passed away. And I just kept the tape running, and I'm sitting here right on this exact glider and watching the tape, and as that thing just comes up on the screen for the first time, exactly what happened was my heart fell to my stomach. I mean, you just don't believe something like that was within 100 yards of you, that big, and you don't even know it. I mean, I was there, it was there, the birds were there, that was it.
Very peripheral.
Yeah, and again, it was another one of those cases of where no one knew where I was going. I was by myself, I had nothing better to do, so I'm just out there shooting some footage, enjoying the outdoors, and catch this thing on tape.
Now let me ask you, how many times have you seen, or do you think that you've seen this white entity, and if you could relay any other accounts where people have also claimed to have seen this entity?
In person, myself, with my own eyes at the time, I've seen it one time, and that was in September of 1985, September 15th of 85. That was just across the Tuscarawas, Guernsey County line, 4 miles due south of where you're at now. There have been other sightings, very few of them, where you have, like, let's say a tan-colored creature, which during a sunny day can be mistaken for a white one, or a gray-colored creature or whatever. I know of virtually maybe 2 or 3 other sightings from the general public in Ohio that have seen white ones.
Okay.
It's extremely rare.
Yes. Which would probably hint that this is just a single individual as opposed to a family.
Right, because the one that I captured on tape, if that's what it is, I'm not saying...
Single male.
Yeah.
Single male.
Possibly like
Danny Perez, with his calculations when he was out here, estimated, I mean, and he has equipment big time too to back up his measurements, estimated it was 9.5.
Repeat what you
said.
said.
Regarding the Danny Perez?
Yeah, Danny came out, I believe, in
October.
And he came out to the film site. He saw the film at first, came out to the film site, and I think according to Don, he actually took a TV, ran the extension cord from his RV TV and VCR combo over to where Don was supposedly standing during the film, watched the tape, and started getting measurements and kept going back and forth with all his different equipment, and came to a conclusion where it was walking in the road, which we were pretty close to guessing where we thought it was walking in the road. And comparing to some of the trees and everything, how big it was, he estimated 9.5 to 10 feet tall. And
he was very impressed with it. He also had the opportunity to interview 2 of 7 eyewitnesses of a July 31, '96 sighting, and he he told me whenever he goes to a sighting interview, he is skeptical. Of course, you got to be skeptical. You can't be gullible. But when he was there talking to them, listening to what they said and everything, and it was one of the more interesting sightings of '96 that was turned in Ohio. When I interviewed him that night down here, I asked him, I said, okay, tell me, what do you think? What do you think about Todd and Joni?
Could you briefly fill me in on that sighting Marc
told me about? What that was a sighting of, first of all, it was boyfriend, girlfriend that were on their way home from Zanesville, and they decided to take the country roads. About 12:30, quarter to 1 at night. They turned off State Route 541 onto one of the side country roads. They saw a bunch of birds flying. That late at night, of course, that's unusual. You do have seagulls that fly at night around here. I know that for a fact. You also have what they call killdeer that fly at night around here, and you have your owls. And they saw all these birds flocking around, and when they got up to where the birds were, they saw this thing standing right alongside the road, 8 foot tall, brown colored creature, just standing there. And they think, well, this ain't right, So they went home, they talked about it, they said, no, that's, we got to tell somebody about this. So they went to town, Coshocton, to the plaza. They found 5 more of their friends down there. They said, come out, we want to show you where this thing was at, thinking that maybe it'll still be there, but we doubt it, And so now you have 3 cars with a total of 7 people. They go back out there. They look around where the thing had been seen at 12:30. Wasn't there. They turn around and at this old drive-in, dirt trail that goes up to an old cemetery on top of a hill. They turn around, and as they're turning back around to hit this county road to go back toward the state route, the headlights catch this thing in an open field about 200 yards away. So they stop, and the one kid had like a 1,000,000-power candle floodlight with him, and they're standing there. They see this thing. It's got these luminescent, like green eyes. It's standing there in the open field, and this is old mining territory. This is reclaimed, and you're talking about this thing standing in yellowish-colored weeds that are probably about 1.5 feet, 2 foot high. They saw it. It stood there. It protected his face from the floodlight, and it didn't go like this with the top. It didn't go with the top of the ham facing out. What it did was very interesting, and I compared this to a July '91 sighting near Minerva, Ohio, where the eyewitness got close enough to the thing that was on the road that she said she stopped, and it was right in front of her bumper, and when it covered its eyes, it had the palm of the hand out towards the light. And that's exactly what this thing did in July of '96 out here in Coshocton County. That's exactly what these 7 witnesses said that it did. And it's standing there, and it's protecting its eyes from the light, and so on and so on. At first they said it was backing up. It didn't turn around to leave. It walked backwards, still facing them. And then it stopped. A couple minutes later, the one, they had it. If they would have had a camcorder, it would have been beautiful. They said that a couple minutes later, one of the guys said, that thing looks like it's bigger than what it was. And no, it's not. They said, yes, it is, because it's walking towards us.
Wow.
And so at that time, they said, see ya.
Weren't they there for like 10 or 15 minutes?
Oh, they had it in sight between 7 and 9 minutes.
Oh, wow. Almost 10 minutes.
Yeah, and they were there for probably 15 minutes overall.
And Marc, you relate the way a mammalian creature would react in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, from what people have told me, zoologists and everything, a mammalian creature would...
Grover Krantz told you this.
Yeah, Grover Krantz mentioned that also. If it would be protecting young, for example, if there was a young one up there on the ridge, it would never turn its back to its so-called enemy. It would probably stand the ground to give the young one the chance to get far enough away until the adult was satisfied. Then it would make its way, over to meet back up with its young. But for it to be walking toward them, I mean, maybe it was trying to drive them away. But like I said, Don and I went up on that ridge, and there was a lot of stripped of these berry bushes that are all over this country, and I mean, they were stripped clean, like 5, 6 of them right in a row, like something must have been them.
You got to consider too that this is 7 eyewitnesses ranging in age from 19 to 26 years of age. I ask them over and over again. I've only interviewed the 2, but I've heard from the 7, and I've asked them over and over again. You guys weren't drinking, none of this kind of stuff. They swear that they weren't drinking. Todd and Joni, Todd and Tony. Well, Joni or Tony is her name. They're serious boyfriend, girlfriend. She's going to have a kid now. They're both working.
There's no need for them to fabricate a story as such.
Right.
Where does it get them?
Right. And besides that, they weren't looking for a reward or anything else like that. They just saw something unusual. They told a friend of theirs which happened to be the daughter of a lady who attends my meeting on a regular basis.
Because once again, Don, these sightings were in the heart of an area where sightings have been traditional over the past, say, 40 to 50 years.
Yeah, Coshocton, Guernsey, and Tuscarawas County have the highest number of sightings, and they were in Coshocton County. And Coshocton County, as of May 25th, 1993, had 79 documented sightings by itself.
Wow.
So, and again, I have no reason. But anyway, going back to Danny Perez, when he interviewed him in October, and then we sat down here that evening, that Sunday evening, before he left Monday morning. I had to go to work Monday morning. I said, "What do you think?" And his words to me exactly were, I believe they were, I think they saw something. I think they saw a Bigfoot. And Perez is a hard-nosed individual, and he's from California. Didn't believe Bigfoot was in Ohio when he first pulled into Ohio. And when he left, I think it's pretty obvious his opinion was switched around 180 degrees.
That's how Ray Crow was too.
Yeah.
His opinion.
Was Ray skeptical?
Ray was skeptical,
Extremely.
which I wouldn't blame him. I was skeptical too, and
Yep.
then when you see all this evidence, and especially when I found a footprint on Memorial Day, that just kind of put shrills down.
This is one, Mark, you found after a rainstorm. Could you
Yeah, it
elaborate?
was on Memorial Day of this year. I actually drove down to meet Don at the truck stop in town. We were going to go out and just mess around, do a little field footage and this and that. Well, we came down, we met at the truck stop. It was still pouring rain. Ended up getting my little kitty at the truck stop, with a little abandoned kitty, and so we waited till it kind of stopped. It was probably around 4 o'clock, if I'm correct. And so he took me out to the film site area, and we were just looking around, and we decided, let's walk up back to, there's like 3 lakes way back there. We were going to start walking back there. So he went ahead of me, and I was walking, and I noticed as the sun started coming out, I noticed this puddle of water. I called it a puddle because it was a spot in this section, maybe about 3 feet by 3 feet, because there was weeds and like knee-high weeds all around the other part of the area. I could see this puddle where it looked like there was a big impression in there. So I walked over there real quick and kind of looked down at it, and I noticed the back half, which was probably like 12 or 13 inches in length, and I'm thinking, man, what's that? That looks kind of unusual. And then I saw the dirt build up between the back puddle and the front puddle, and I'm looking, I'm going, big toe. Second, third, fourth, fifth, right down the line. You could see it. And I'm like, hey, Don, come take out, look at this footprint. Ha, 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 just joking. He walks over and he goes, what? He sees the same back 3/4 of the thing. He goes, it just looks like a, yeah, who knows, what could it be? It was just filled with water. I go, Don, there's a toes right there. And he's looking down, he's going, oh my God. And then he looks at it from this side where the sun, you could see it better. He's like, oh my God, you're right. And so we did some measurements. I think it was like 17.5 inches by 7.5. It was just the right foot, if I'm correct. It was just the right foot. And if it was a Bigfoot, it was coming through the weeds, and his right foot hit there, his left foot kept going on right along down the pond line.
Interesting point about that story is where that track was and where this thing walked down the road in August of '92, less than 150 yards apart.
Wow, wow.
And this is almost 4 years later.
And then to top it off, we went back up to the car after taking pictures, doing a little video footage of it and everything. And I said, well, Don, I'm going to walk down here if you want to follow. I just want to walk down a little bit and kind of look into the wood line, because the pond would be on the other side of the wood line, so we'd be on the dirt road, actually where the creature walked down in '92. When I walked down, and like I say, this is one of the first times I was ever out in the woods with Don, and I'm walking, and I catch this smell in my nose, and immediately made my eyes go whoosh. So I kept going, and he was maybe 10 feet following behind.
Did you smell it too, Don?
Well, here's the point.
Musty odor,
Here's the point. He goes, stop. And as soon as he said stop, because I didn't want to say anything, I turned around and I said, you just smelled what I smelled, right? He goes, exactly.
No.
I mean, it was a smell that was going this way across the road, and when we went back to the area, you could just barely smell it, and then it was gone.
Wasn't it like something like a urine smell?
It's hard. I guess there's no way you can explain.
I guess it was hard to describe. Yeah, because we talked about it afterwards, right afterwards. I guess we came to the conclusion that we couldn't really describe it with anything that.
We looked on both sides of the road, thinking, well, maybe there's a dead rabbit or dead something laying right on the edge of the road that odor would come into. There was
wafting
nothing.
down, because you were up.
There was nothing around.
Could you quickly retell the story whereby you were late at night, you were trying to reenact the wood-on-wood sound with your wife, Marc, and you were actually, something was thrown at you?
This was Don and my wife, Dawn. They went up onto this clear cut down near up above Sasquatch Lake, basically, and they started doing wood on wood, and they were way up by like the power transformer, according to my wife, and we heard something weird on the other side of the lake. It was like kind of like, I don't know, it was like a whistling noise. I mean, but it was real consistent. It kept doing it, then it would stop, and it would do it again. Thinking, what kind of bird would do that? And Richard goes, oh, I have no clue. So we gave the signal to Don, which is just like a tap, like one tap with like onto a steel pole, and they came right down. And my wife comes walking up to me, and she's like, looks sick almost. I go, Don, what's wrong? She goes, well, Mark, she goes, we heard responses when we were up there. Didn't you guys hear it? I'm like, well, no, we didn't hear it. But she says, Mark, I heard it at least one time. Don said he heard it twice, and she pointed like it was coming from, they were up on this real high hill, and she pointed that it was coming from that way. And I'm like, well, hey, whatever. And she was just like kind of holding on to Don, like,
basically,
yeah. Well, so Don and I, like I told you in the car, we decided, he said, oh, let's put this micro cassette recorder, we'll put it up out along the lake, because we could hear that whistling noise coming from over there. We'll put it on and see if maybe something comes around, makes some noise, and we'll come back in the morning and get it. Well, we go out there, and I have my mag light. We're walking down there. We go to the edge of the pond. He's up there, fooling around, like, with one step up in the V of the tree, trying to get it up there, and all of a sudden, like I told you, splash! Something hits probably about 10, 15 feet max from the shoreline. And I go, Don, what was that? He goes, I don't know. I just thought to myself, oh, maybe beaver, tail, smack, whatever, this and that. And fish jumping up. I really didn't know what to expect. So we kind of, well, forget about it. Shine the light back up on the tree. He's back up there, and this time, but this time it's right on the edge. I mean, part of it was actually out of the water. I mean, it splashed me. And I go, Don, what was that? He goes, let's get the you-know-what out of here. When he said that, I went like this to him. I'm going first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm shining my light like all to my left in the woods, thinking this thing's there, not letting it get me.
Yeah.
And then we made it about halfway back to the car, which was only about, like I said, 60 yards away.
Yeah.
And my wife and Richard, they heard the objects hit the water and hit the side. They thought we were throwing rocks in the water. And when we got about halfway up, that whistling right up on the same hillside started right back up. And then, like I told you, you could hear something moving through the woodline, going away from us down the pond. But it was moving real slow, but every time it moved, you could tell it was moving through thick woods, because it was, I mean, it was like, whoa. So we kind of like, my wife goes to me on the way home, she goes, I don't mind coming down for the meetings, I don't mind going out in the daytime, but no more nighttime for me, please. So it's like, but I mean, having that happen, and then Ray Crow, when we investigated the area where I said that where we thought the rocks were coming from, well, we went up onto the ridge above there, and sure as holy hell, there's 5 10-pound rocks. Because the strip mining, when the machines went to clear the path out, all the boulders pushed up onto the sides. There's a whole slew of them, like thousands of them. So Ray and I were taking like 5-pounders, and I'm throwing them as far as I can, trying to get them to the lake. I couldn't even get them to the edge of the lake. These were landing like another 30 feet farther away and somewhat out into the water. And then the one hit right on the edge. It was almost like whatever was thrown, it was just like, well,
an arm better than John Elway.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, guys. We're the Bigfoot community, as you know, like the UFO community or any investigative organization into strange phenomena, is very factionalized. You, Don, were mentioning that it was tough to convince the preeminent explorers, Ray Crow from the Western Bigfoot Society, Danny Perez from California. What does Peter Burns take on this, number one? And number two, the environment would warrant the existence of this creature, if it were to exist anywhere, would be Ohio, because of the vacated mines, the shafts, and the swampland, and the impenetrable thickets. Comment on that.
Burns' opinion, as far as I know, as of today, as it was back in June when I first started inviting guest speakers in here from other parts of the U.S. and Canada, was that there's nothing east of the Rockies. And as far as I know, as of today, he still believes that.
Oh.
And even with Ray Crow, who is a very close friend of his out there with the Western Bigfoot Society, coming to Ohio, totally skeptical, leaving Ohio, totally different than what he came, I think Byrne is still of the opinion, publicly, that there is nothing east of the Rocky Mountains. Now, as far
Folks would beg to differ in Arkansas, Missouri, and Florida, and
yeah, oh, absolutely, and
in
Illinois,
Maryland, Pennsylvania.
Missouri, yeah, right. I mean, there's a report of a Bigfoot sighting throughout history in every state except Rhode Island, east of the Mississippi River. I mean, what else can you say? You know, they were there at one time if they're not now. Ask Smokey Crabtree what he thinks. You know, ask the people down at where the monster took place at the Missouri Monster. But anyway, as far as the habitat in Ohio is concerned, you've got 41,004 square miles of land. You've got 10 plus million people in Ohio. But the point is, as Mark and I talk about all the time, over 3 million of them are in the Cleveland metro area.
7 million of them are in the northeast section of the state alone.
Exactly.
That leaves 3 to 4 million people to cover the other 3/4 part of the state, which the bottom half is the most heavily covered with forest.
Yeah, southeast and southern and south central Ohio is covered with the Wayne National Forest. There are hundreds of square miles of land in those parts of the state that are national forest. And in fact, down in Lawrence County, Ohio, right now, they're having a big argument back and forth between DNR officials and mining companies because the mining companies want to get into the state forest, you know, to get the coal out of there, and they don't want to do that because it's state, you know, it's preserved. There is plenty of natural resources available in Ohio, plenty of areas to hide, plenty of areas for food, water, and shelter. If any wild animal was out there to exist, I don't care if it's 2 foot tall, I don't care if it's 12 foot tall. You can get into the woods of Coshocton County. We're going to take you out there this afternoon. You'll see for yourself. There's areas out there where I could hide from him after I leave the car 15 minutes, you know, in 15 minutes, and hopefully, he probably couldn't find me for a while.
I just look for the sun to shine up there.
Yeah, well, you don't need to comment on that. That's why I wear a hat in the field now.
But it's amazing somebody like a Peter Byrne, for him to claim that there's nothing east of the Rockies, yet to make claims about the abominable snowman, the Yeri, in Russia.
I'll give you a perfect reason why. If the Applied Academy of Science of Boston, Massachusetts,
Dr. Robert Rhines, my friend,
is funding his efforts out in the Pacific Northwest. If Peter Byrne would come out on the limb and say, well, he'll call the Applied Academy of Science, hey, we have a great lead in Ohio. What do you think the Applied Academy of Science is going to say? Well, what are we doing out in Oregon?
Why are we
They're out there in Oregon and Washington. They know that. But the expansiveness of the terrain and the ruggedness of the mountains is the killing factor.
In the Academy of Applied Sciences, they are very subjective in their approach. This is the way you're going to believe, and that's it. I'm trying to accompany Dr. Rhines on the expedition, and I've been known as a skeptic, but he came up with some fabulous photos from Loch Ness, not to digress, of a head and of a flipper. And now he's dodging me, so he's going to have a parrot on his shoulder now. You're going to pull up any information about Loch Ness, well, I'm going to be right there to see it. So that particular organization is strained in credibility in my eyes. I wanted to touch on the thickets here as opposed to the Northwest. Mark, you've been to the Northwest, Don, you're planning a trip to Portland. What is the difference, say, between the thickets here, the brush here, as opposed to the pine in the Northwest? And
well,
this is one way you could argue.
The Pacific Northwest is all very large conifers and very lush vegetation, ferns and small type. I mean, I call them myself. The leaves are real soft and they're easy to. I mean, they're easy to go through, but I mean, they do have some, extremely thick wilderness out there. But according to John Green, when he came out, if Don would take over, what John said about out here.
John was rather impressed with the terrain. He said it was a lot.
John Green being one of the foremost authorities on Sasquatch in the United States, if not the world.
Right, from Harrison Hot Springs, BC. He said that it was a lot more rugged than what he had pictured it to be. He pictured Ohio to be flat. And Ohio is flat.
But people do, Don, think it's farmland. I've had rolling arguments with people that say, I'm saying southeastern Ohio is rugged, abandoned mining country. Oh no, it's all farms. And I know flying into Akron, Canton, you can see the farms and the little clumps of trees there. But people, it's a very misunderstood area because it's a very unexplored area.
But even northeast Ohio isn't nearly as rugged as east central or southeast Ohio. But it's like if you take an imaginary line and you draw it from Youngstown to Alliance, Sebring area, over towards Mount Vernon, and then down from, say, Newark, Ohio, and then right down along US Route 23, which goes from Chillicothe down to Portsmouth and Ironton, Ohio. If you go that imaginary bowed line southeast of there, it's wild as all get out.
Well, you've got your own triangle out here too, then.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's the foothills of the Alleghenies and the Appalachians.
Yeah, where two ranges meet, and where there's a lot of resources. Obviously, when two plates, I imagine they converged at that point. If you have two adjacent mountain ranges. Finally, when I lecture, I talk about the white Sasquatch of Ohio, and I lecture to children. And you've got a great photo. I'm just going to zoom over here to it. It's a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch smiling.
You want that taken down?
No, that's I've got a nice shot of it, but here's one smiling. If you could just quickly relay that story, Don, I think that's one of the good ones, and it really disposes of the myth that these are creatures to be afraid of, that they are aggressive creatures in nature.
This was a tale from Noble County, Ohio, July 2, 1984, Sharon, Ohio. A mother and her 3 young kids, they wanted to go down to the local Grange Hall and play on the merry-go-round, the swings, etc. So they did so. Approximately half an hour to 45 minutes after they were there, the mother, who I will call Lorena, said that she heard some very heavy walking in the woods coming towards them. She thought one of the neighbors' cows had broken loose from their penned-in area, so she didn't think too much about it. A few minutes later, she heard the heavy walking noises almost right at the tree line. It was then that she looked over toward the tree line almost simultaneously with her 3 young kids and saw the creature standing there in exactly that manner, looking down at the kids as they were playing on the playground. And it just had its hand up on a branch like this, and the branch was 8 foot high, and its head was a little higher than the branch, and it had a grin on its face, as if it were amused watching these kids playing on the merry-go-round, the playground, the swing, etc. So 99% of the sightings in Ohio are not aggressive. They're passive or curious.
Don, I wanted to recount a story about a woman looking outside her window at night near her lamppost, and she saw a Sasquatch. And you could just
yeah. She was, I believe this was back in 1986 near Berlin Center, Ohio, northeast Ohio. She had heard her ducks squawking outside, and they've got this large barn out there, and they've got this lamppost right there at the barn, for protection, security. She looked out the window. She was upstairs in her upstairs bedroom. She looked out the window. She saw the ducks there, wandering around at the ground inside the light, and then she happened to notice just inside of the night line, just beyond the light, right, she saw this creature standing there looking down at him, as if it was watching the ducks, amused at the ducks. So normally, it's just another case of creatures that were curious about other animal or other human behavior, and they weren't really aggressive. They was just looking down at the ducks, watching the ducks as they were walking around. The ducks didn't really seem to be scared. They were just squawking, alerting other ones, I suppose, that, hey, there's something big here.
Any other unique stories as such that you'd like to tell here?
There is one. I'll briefly relate it from Salt Fork State Park. This took place back in 1972 or 73. Salt Fork Lodge was opened in May of 1972, I believe during the Memorial Day weekend. It's the highest visited state park in Ohio, and I believe there are 7 or 8 state parks in Ohio. What was going on here, during the construction of the state park, the roads, the terrain, the park property, etc. What was going on was, during a 2-week period, there were 4 sightings reported by 4 different individuals. And we'll go from report number 3, where the lady said she saw the creature cross the road. The ranger interviewed her. He said he smelled alcohol in her breath, but she was flat out petrified, so he believed her. He radioed to one of the main ranger stations telling him, hey, listen, this lady said she saw one of these creatures not too far from you, keep your eyes open. He said, okay. It just so happened as he was talking on the radio to someone else, he turned, looked out the window, and there is an ape-like face pressed up against the window looking in at him. He said the eyes were almond-shaped and black. The nose was pressed to the face, like a gorilla's nose would be, but the lips were kind of like the jaws, and the lips were protruding from the face. When he saw it, his immediate reaction was swing towards it. He did. He threw his fist through the window. He ended up having to have like 40 or 50 stitches in his hand. He busted his hand up real good. He just swung at this thing instinctively, and he called me at the beginning of this year he's never told anybody else about it other than the rangers at Salt Fork. Told me about it. He gave me his name. He asked me to keep it confidential, which is understandable. He said, if you don't believe me, he said, check with Guernsey Memorial Hospital back during that time period. He said, I'll go there with you. We'll look up the report. He said, it is on file. He said, I told them why I had, my hand messed up like this. So that's another very interesting story of...
Don, since you formed the EOBIC, as I call it, the Eastern Ohio Bigfoot Investigation Center, a lot of people, you gain their confidence that are coming, hey, listen, I don't know what this was, but this is it anyways. What do you think? And a lot of people that are terrified because they don't want to subject themselves to scorn or ridicule, but you have gained their confidence. And more tradition of this biped, this hominid, is arising here in Ohio. If you could just tell me regarding some of the people, are the sightings, have they spiked at all, or do you find more and more people coming forward? I know that mixed within that there is hoax tradition of people that you cannot really judge to be credible people.
Right.
But have you seen that the sightings increased, or the activity has stayed the same, or what would you say?
Back in 1984, when I first started investigating this whole thing, there was only one sighting that I knew of, and that was in the Newcomerstown News in September of '84, and that's why I started investigating it. And then I started holding meetings in July of 1985. Myself and a man who now lives in North Carolina by the name of Tom Archer, we got the idea to hold a one-time deal. We were just going to do it one time because we wanted to see what kind of leads we could get. We wanted fresh leads so we could, do active research where things had just happened. And as it turns out, there were 32 people at the July '85 meeting, there were 56 in August, and there were 105 in September.
Wow. And
it was after July, when I expected maybe 15 people at the most, that we had 32, that I thought, well, this might be an idea, on a monthly basis. The people, generally speaking, they're just average people off the street. They're not looking for publicity.
But they did have a connection whereby they were either intrigued by the whole story, they had an encounter themselves, or they knew of somebody that had an encounter, correct?
Right. Yeah. In fact, what I was getting to was 95% of the people that tell me about what they saw themselves don't want their name used. They just want to be confidential. And I suppose that's either fear of ridicule from their peers or from their family or whatever. There are cases on file that I have now, either in my head or in the papers around here somewhere, that we know were hoaxes. Recently, I got a phone call from Northern Ohio. Called the guy back, but the only problem is, it was a Canton, Ohio number. And he told me he was in Northern Ohio near Cleveland. And the area codes have recently changed around here, and so I thought it was a mistake. I called the operator, I called information, I called everybody that I could to see if I could track down this number in this town. And there was no such number in that town. So maybe it was a hoax, maybe it wasn't. The lines might have been crossed somewhere. He got his number wrong. I don't know. I know my phone number by heart. But we have probably a dozen I could throw out over the period of time that we believe were fake, hoaxes, whatever.
And I mentioned to Mark that there are no costume shops within a 100-mile radius, is that correct, of Newcomerstown, or any trinket shop or general store where they could offer up, for instance, a Chewbacca costume from Star Wars. A good one costs about $9,500, and there's nobody that offers something like that.
As far as I know, that's right, yeah, as far as I know.
And you'd have to have a lot of balls, as they say, to go out in the woods with these drunken hunters in an ape costume.
Yeah, stick somebody out there in an ape costume now. They wouldn't go after a deer, they'd go after a Bigfoot.
Exactly.
And deer season runs from the beginning of this week, which is back on the 1st of December, until the 12th of December. And you got 500,000 hunters, and most of them are in southeast Ohio. And Tuscarawas, Guernsey, Muskingum, and Coshocton counties are the 4 counties with the highest number of deer taken every year. So,
well, it's you want to hear a good point? I've been seeing in the paper. There's more hunters out this year, but less deer have been taken.
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously
there's
your point about
more predators in the woods than bears, mountain lions, that are feasting on this huge amount of.
Or we may not be dealing, shall we say, with the most proficient hunters. Comment on that. Tell me the story tell me about an Ohio hunter.
Typical Ohio hunter. Goes to Mr. Donut, picks up his dozen of donuts and his big thermos full of coffee. Drives down the nearest road, preferably close to a Walmart. Gets out of his car, walks into the woods to his tree stand, climbs up climbs up his tree stand with his donuts and coffee, polishes that off in 10 minutes, falls asleep, and as he's snoring, a buck comes up and rubs his antlers onto the base of the tree. And being all scared, when he wakes up, rifle falls down from his side and shoots. Boom, there's his deer.
Hunting by default.
Season is over. Let's go home.
But Mark, you said a good point the other day. How close are these hunters away from the road? I mean, maybe at the most 100 yards away.
Yeah.
And that could be why you don't have increased number of sightings during deer season. These guys don't want to walk a mile into the woods to find a deer because they don't want to drag
Drag
it
it
out.
out,
Exactly. It's tough to drag the cooler all that
They
way.
ain't got
Right?
the guts. If they walk some of the hikes that we've walked this year, they'd be sweating to death. And you know,
We've gone in some points, like I think 6 miles in.
yeah.
Remote locations,
Yeah.
and even then, 6 miles is not even a bite out of how far you could go in.
Yeah.
Right. But the
Yeah.
fact is, you can get lost. Human beings as a whole are not very good at orienteering.
But the nice thing for the big feet is with the mining, they did actually have some single lane roads going into the forest that now are kind of grown out, but it's manageable to walk through. Plus, with all the clear cuts for the power lines run through all the forest through here. Like I told you on the drive down, I call it their highway system of movement. As soon as it turns night, they know no one's in the woods. The quickest way to get from point A to point B is to use the clear cuts. They come down through the power lines, cross the roads, and that's when people have sightings of these things crossing the roads. It's from power line cut to power line cut. And it's plain, quite and simple. These aren't stupid animals. I mean, it's obvious. History will tell you that. And if you're lucky to see one, it's just because the thing's curious and it wants you to see it.
Good point. And in closing, regarding the behavior, the accounts that we have are consistent. The way this thing reacts, or the way this creature reacts. Have you ever maybe relay one account of where the behavior was inconsistent or very aggressive in nature? I think that there's been a misnomer on this particular entity, that people are afraid of it, but it's really a non-aggressive or passive creature. But do you have anything that would lead you otherwise?
One that comes to mind offhand is the Minerva, Ohio case, which was back in the early 80s. This involved the Keating residence. Minerva is approximately 65 miles northeast of here. At first they had sightings that started occurring. They had footprints they started finding, and it got to a point where the creature or creatures got so aggressive that they were killing the family's dogs outside. And the dogs were actually digging holes so deep that they were trying to hide from the creature. Holes 2 or 3 or 4 feet deep, German Shepherd dogs. So there is a little bit of aggressiveness there as far as the dogs are concerned. You know, with the creature killing the dog, probably because, I don't know, because it's a nuisance, I guess.
Well, if you look at any other animal, the only thing that's aggressive animal that would bark and come up to you and be aggressive in nature, think of any animal in the animal kingdom, and it's the domesticated pet, the dog that would be aggressive. Even a black bear would run off and try to avoid
Well, let's face
contact.
it, if you're an 8 foot tall, 800-pound animal and you have a little Lhasa Apso up there barking away, that's causing attention to you.
Exactly.
The first common
Your well-being is in
thing
jeopardy.
to do is to pick the Lhasa Apso up and
Silence it.
silence it. And I don't think they intentionally mean to kill it as in an aggressive motive, but it's just they know that in order for them not to be found, they have to shut up anything that's going to bring
And
attention.
behind
to
a
it.
barking dog comes a human being.
Exactly.
So, with a gun in most cases.
More likely than not. I'll close with one thought. 2 weeks ago, I was up at Strongsville at Marc's place, up at their cichlid gathering.
Fish convention.
Fish convention, tropical fish. And a friend of his from New York flew in by the name of Dave. And you know, I've always said, you know, I want to get an excellent photograph or video footage of one of these things close enough you can see the face real good. You can see it breathing. This friend of his is 7'2", which is the tallest person I've ever met.
Wow.
And I'm quite literally looking up at him at 7'2", and then we're talking, and I said, add another 2 feet and another 400 pounds to that. And there's the average. That could be the size of the white thing that walked down the country road.
Wow.
9 to 10 foot tall, 6, 7, 800 pounds.
Oh,
So at that point, I thought, I don't know if I do
Something
want
that
to turn
big.
around, you know, and see it face to face.
It's only logic. Something that big would have to be 1,000 pounds. If it's 9, 10 feet tall, and it's a fully developed male creature, because from what I remember reading in different books, people seeing male and female together, male's a lot bigger than the female. I mean, so if the Patterson creature is supposedly 575 or 600 pounds, like a few of the experts are claiming, 7 foot tall. That's what they're claiming. Could you imagine what a 10 foot tall male creature? It's only common sense that the male is a larger size than the female. So if you're talking 9-10 feet tall, you got to talk Kodiak bear size weight. Big Kodiak brown bear, 1,000-pound plus.
Quickly comment on the lair that you found, or you think that could be a Bigfoot lair.
That was in April of 1995. What we did was we were out near the film site looking around. We found a large area of thorn bushes and amongst several small trees. And what happened, it appears to us what happened was a lot of these thorn bushes, they had been growing out, but it also at the same time appeared as if someone or something had taken these thorn bushes and molded them into kind of a structure type, like it has a little bit of a dome overhead, and then underneath, and there's 4 or 5 foot high, the top of these briars, and underneath there was all this real green grass. I mean, in April, and it looked as if something large had been lying in there. So I don't really. A lot of the so-called Ohio grassman stuff, I'm not real keen on. I don't think they build dozens of them around the state.
Ohio grassman, if you could comment on that. I know that in the mid-50s we had hairy dwarf sightings accompanied with UFOs. There's supposedly a central Ohio grassman. How is that different from the entity that you've been following?
I think according to those researchers in Southwest Ohio, it's basically the same thing. But what their philosophy is, that these big feet are going around all of these different parts of the state, wherever they're residing. They're building all these big domes and these big nesting areas, and that they're living inside of that. And I don't believe that. Even though the Sasquatch is a bipedal primate, as we are, I don't think that they want to go to the extent, to build that bunch of crap up so that they can sleep under it. I mean, you're going to give yourself away, basically, because if a human goes walking through there, they see this dome type thing, oh, let's go check this out. And if it's at night, when this thing may be in there, you're stuck. The creature's stuck. So I don't buy into this.
You tend to think that its habitat would be caves or abandoned mines or something.
Yeah, but the only problem is there are literally hundreds of old mine openings in Coshocton, Muskingum, Guernsey, Tuscarawas counties. We've never found one that is remaining open.
Oh.
So apparently the mine companies have done an outstanding job covering up the openings. The caves, maybe a handful in eastern Ohio, and maybe 4 of those are really unknown. So my theory, as of today, and a year or 2 ago, and Mark and I have talked about this before, is I don't think that the creatures go down low whenever they're hiding out or they're sleeping or whatever. If you think about it during the winter, if anybody that watches this has ever been in the field during the winter and it's raining hard or it's snowing hard or the wind's blowing and it's real cold, if you want to stay warm, go into a large area of pine trees, because pine trees is a really good shelter.
The rain can't get through.
Yeah.
The bottom, the snow never, when it snows, the snow never piles up below, especially when the pine trees are real close together.
It offers a great canopy.
Yeah.
You're right.
Pacific
and it cuts down
Northwest
wind resistance. And
the Blue Mountains was a great example near Pullman, Washington. You begin snow, it would be up to your waist. You get into the pine line, there's absolutely pine needles completely covered on the bottom of the pine forest. There's snow, for some reason, doesn't get through far enough. The branches on the pine trees hold the snow up there. I mean, you might have a few clumps here and there, but I mean, in general, all it is, it's soft dirt. It's, because I was finding tracks of everything up in Pullman. But I mean, as we talked about coming in, they don't know how many mine shafts there are. Some companies will say, well, we think that there's this many. Other companies that don't want to say we think there's that. As far as we know, we have them sealed up. But I guarantee you there's other ones that are open.
No question.
There's no doubt about it.
Great.
And if not, there's another way in that we don't even know about.
Well, we'll try it this afternoon. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
We're now heading out to the film site.
Right.